Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we have to talk about a lot of things going on and okay. Again, I want to start off with my prerequisite that I've been starting off with lately. The 4chaners are still kind of in my comment section. Just ignore them. If they comment, ignore them. Do not engage. Their targeted harassment is towards me and I'd really rather it stay there instead of at you guys. Alright, my next thing is we have to talk about George Floyd and how horrifically awful that is, and the story in general. Before I can even break into the other stories I have to break into tonight, we absolutely 100% have to cover the George Floyd situation because what happened to him is so much worse than we originally thought. So I will not be saying the officer's name, while I will be saying George's name constantly, because I want to remind people that George was a human being, that he was alive, that he will never, ever be able to go home to his family again, and that is completely and totally unacceptable in this day and age, that a man who could have been arrested for something as simple as counterfeit money is now having to be buried and will never see his family again. Okay, so George Floyd went to a restaurant and supposedly used a counterfeit $20 bill. We don't know if he knew it was counterfeit. We don't know if he did it intentionally. We don't know anything about that. We'll never get to know because George Floyd was murdered before he got to tell his side of the story. So he goes, he uses this 20, the cops are called. One cop shows up. They go to arrest George Floyd. George Floyd is then removed from his car. He is then placed on the sidewalk where he slides down the wall. Now, I don't know when George Floyd proceeded to have a heart attack, but I know that he was having a heart attack during this incident, and part of me wonders if maybe he was having a heart attack from the onset of this. If he wasn't having a heart attack, he was at minimum having a panic attack, which is a medical issue, and instead of doing what they did, they should have immediately called an ambulance and tried to monitor the situation, but instead of doing that, they pick George Floyd back up. They try to put him in the police car. He again slides down. They then call for more officers. This is the point when Officer Douchebag shows up and decides that when George Floyd goes down, him and two other officers, three of them were total holding him down, are going to hold the man down. Now at this point, he's starting to complain about chest pains, back pains, all signs of a heart attack. But instead of helping him, they repeatedly tell him he's fine. He's saying he cannot breathe. Officer Douchebag's knee is on George Floyd's neck. That is not acceptable. That has not been an acceptable move since the early 1990s. Chokeholds and stress positions like that are not acceptable to be used by police departments. They don't allow it anymore. So Officer Douchebag continues to do this for a total of 9 minutes. For 3 of those minutes, George Floyd is unconscious. George Floyd is most likely dead. An officer goes, Officer Douchebag number 2, we'll call him Douchebag number 2. Douchebag number 2 tells Douchebag number 1 that he cannot find a pulse on George Floyd's body. Nothing is done. He's not rolled over. He is not given CPR. Nothing is done. Officer Douchebag number 1 continues to keep his knee on George Floyd's neck. Your job as an officer is not only to arrest people for what they do, but it is to protect the people in your care. So the second George Floyd was arrested, the second George Floyd was put into custody of the Minneapolis PD, it was their job to make sure he got medical attention. It was their job to make sure he was safe. But instead of doing their basic job, douchebags 1 through 4 killed him. Absolutely 100% murdered him. Imagine having your knee on someone's neck for almost 9 minutes. Imagine 3 of those minutes, this person is unconscious and most likely not breathing. Do you know how long 3 minutes is to be kneeling on someone who's not breathing? This is unacceptable. This was homicide. This wasn't 3rd degree unintentional or manslaughter. No, this was definitely 2nd degree murder. And the fact that Officer Douchebag is only being charged with basically manslaughter and murder 3, which is basically manslaughter. It's manslaughter and manslaughter. I don't understand. why. But yeah, they're only charging him with that. It is completely and totally unacceptable. And I'm seeing in the comments, well, he had a criminal history. He shouldn't have resisted arrest. Have you watched the videos I've been watching? Because he wasn't really resisting. He was falling to the ground. He was saying he can't breathe. He was visibly struggling. The people around in the scenes were saying, check his pulse. Is he alive? You need to do something. Why are you not helping this man? If, complete and total strangers in the street can see that something is wrong with George Floyd, douchebag officers who do have some basic medical training should have known something was wrong, should have done something, but instead they let a man die. They let a man die. And there are actually people out there who are making excuses for this officer. George Floyd had a criminal record. I don't care. He shouldn't have resisted in the first place. I don't care. He should have just gotten into the cop car. I don't care. I don't care if he was running around, flailing around, acting like an idiot 10 minutes prior to this. I don't care if it took 5 of them to get him into handcuffs. Once he was restrained, once they had control over him, they were responsible for his well-being and his care. It is that simple. That is it. I cannot imagine sitting on a man's neck for 9 minutes, 3 of which he is unconscious. And for people to be glorifying this and saying it is okay is absolutely horrifically disgusting. The other thing I don't understand is how more people are upset about the protesters than they are the fact that we have a systematic problem of cops murdering people in the streets. You are more concerned about buildings than you are about the fact that 4 cops murdered a man in the streets. The fact that Officer Douchebag had multiple complaints. Not only did he have multiple complaints, he's got more bodies on his hand. Most officers do not fire their gun their entire thing. They definitely don't shoot people. Explain to me how he's been involved in multiple incidents with bodies. There are other bodies. Go look it up. There are other bodies on this man's hand. And how he still has a job or had a job is beyond me. Because you have that many complaints and you have shot and killed more than one person, I'm going to be looking into your record. And if you look at his record as a security guard at the bar where they both worked, even though they say they didn't know each other, which I don't believe for a second, he had a tendency to be rougher on the black patrons than the white patrons. So, my message to all the cops out there, if you want us to respect you, if you want us to take you seriously, then all I want to hear from you right now is you standing up and you publicly saying that you will call out any racist officer, that you will not allow what happened to George Floyd to happen to anyone else. I don't want to see another unarmed black man murdered in the street. I'm tired, and I can only imagine how the black community feels. This is unacceptable. It is not okay. And 3 minutes, he was unconscious. I will never, ever, ever be able to get over that. Watching a man die, and 3 minutes of that, he was unconscious. I can tell, watching the video, something's wrong. The people on the street can tell something's wrong. And yet, 4 officers did nothing. George Floyd was murdered. Plain and simple. He was murdered. And we shouldn't have to riot in the streets to get justice. We shouldn't have to have a camera ready every second of every day to get justice. We shouldn't be here begging for justice. Police officers should not be killing people in the streets. I ask you to sit there for 3 minutes. Just sit in silence for 3 minutes and tell me how long that is. It's not acceptable. It's completely and totally unacceptable. To George Floyd's family, I'm sorry. I am very sorry for your loss. I'm sorry that he was begging for his life and no one listened. I am sorry that we have 300 years of constant and systematic oppression to where a simple counterfeit charge turns into murder. I'm sorry he didn't get a chance to start his life over like he was trying. I'm sorry to his girlfriend, who is now alone. I couldn't imagine losing my spouse. I'm sorry. It's the best I can do is I'm sorry. And I stand with you. I grieve with you. I am wearing all black for you. I will continue to speak out, and I will call out every racist that I see, because George Floyd did not deserve to die, and it's unacceptable. That's the best I can do here, is just call it as I see it.